So the port entry comes to New Zealand, which means they get to enter the start box first. A 10-second start. Not really an advantage in the race, but allows them to decide where they're going to go in positioning. And Ken, we've seen this before. They're late getting there by about 5 seconds.
It's just so hard to judge. It's very easy for us to sit here in the comfort of our chairs and say, wow, they're late. But to go from non-foiling to foiling and to nail it to the split second is not an easy thing to do. Remember, the reason that 10-second jump is allowed is just to avoid really, really potentially dangerous closing speeds between the boats.
We saw this the other day on Thursday. Actually, the two boats playing chicken, and the Americans had to give way, and that's something the organizers do not want to see.
So this is a different tactic. Oracle has waited a long, long time before they've actually jibed to go back towards Emirates Team New Zealand. A huge gap between the boats right now. This is a very different strategy from Oracle.
Interesting strategy playing out on the water. Gary Jobson, do you like what you're seeing, and why do you think Jimmy Spithill's going this route?
Well, I like the way the boats are staying apart, but the game here is to be at the leeward end of the line. That's at the bottom of the screen because that current's sweeping out. You want to be closer to that end.
Less than a minute to go before we release the hounds, and you want to hit that line at perfect zeros. We've seen in the past races, you want to be at the top of the screen and angling down, but today with the current and the way the tide is ebbing, where would you like to be, Ken, at the line?
Well, for sure, the top of the line always will give you a better angle. Let's see where these guys decide to start.
He's still early. Go speed, go speed, go speed.
Jimmy Spithill coming in for a potential last-minute hook. Aggressive move this late in the game.
And race 8 is underway in San Francisco.
Gary, Jimmy Spithill tried to simply do too much, tried to get too cute in that start, just allowed Dean Barker to sit there, block, and hold him off.
Kenny, the patience by Barker really paid off. Too much aggression, bad move by Spithill.
And the consequences, disturbed air off the wing of Emirates Team New Zealand. So the Kiwis will hit mark #1 first with a sizable lead. Now the question is, can the Americans reel them in on the downwind leg?
I think you just really saw the pressure on Jimmy Spithill just to simply try to do something. Take it as an individual and just try to make something happen. Clearly didn't work.
Speed's almost identical, and it's going to be the Americans that decide to peel off first.
Not only they peel off, but they actually make a poor jibe and slow down quite a bit.
It's just amazing how used to the fact that we've watched, we're just used to the fact that boats going down the bay at 38 knots. Just incredible to watch.
38 knots, 43.7 miles an hour. Kiwis have the lead, and it's growing to nearly 100 meters. Remember, their lead at mark #1 was 3 seconds over the Americans.
The wind speed out here right now, Todd, is 4 knots under the limit. It's going to be no problem getting this race in.
Okay. Stand by the drive here, guys. Whenever you're ready, Jimmy.
Jimmy Spithill at the wheel. Ben Ainsley just off to his right.
Go bottom, go forward.
Boy, these boats are kind of glued to each other, though. There's really not much in it between the two boats right now. Very even.
Good heading. Nice going. Go trim.
That's a much better jibe than the one they first pulled off.
Yeah, bottom out at about 30 knots. That's typically a good jibe for these guys at this stage.
So the Americans have actually closed the gap now down to 70 meters. Sweet checking on the water, very rough water indeed, and Gary Jobson.
Well, I'll tell you, I like the way Oracle Team USA is going through that water. It is choppy down where the boats are, a little bit from us right now. They're going well. USA, strong.
Remember, Jimmy Spittle made the changes, Kenny, taking out the spine of the bowsprit. Wise call?
Well, they took off the forward end of the bowsprit, which is only there to put up a code 0 or a larger sail on board the boat in lighter breeze. Obviously, they're not expecting lighter breeze today. They're getting rid of every bit of weight and windage they possibly can. There's that stubby little spine right there. What it also does, though, Todd, is it brings the wind instruments. Those are the only wind instruments. That little vane brings them back closer to the boat, which puts them in slightly more disturbed air, so they may get worse wind readings while sailing in this configuration.
Right gate regardless for us, guys.
Right out of the textbook, stay between your opponent and a mark. New Zealand doing exactly what you should do tactically.
And New Zealand still gaining slightly on all these jibes. Just a little bit, not much, but a little bit every jibe.
This is race number 8, day 5 of the 34th America's Cup. The Kiwis have the lead 6 wins to 1. 3 more victories by New Zealand, and they will take away the America's Cup.
Oracle jibing early here. Team New Zealand jibing for the ley line. They're going to try to do one less maneuver. Oracle might be setting up for a split down here and one more jibe. A tough maneuver so late in the run.
Well, if you're Oracle, you definitely want to do the other gate, Ken.
At mark number 2, it's New Zealand out in front. They had a 3-second lead at mark number 1, and that lead has more than doubled now as the Americans do in fact split the course with the Kiwis, and now the all-telling leg number 3 and upwind.
Pretty soft here, about a 22 knot target. They tack. Good pressure then ahead of it.
Yeah, get into this pressure, Jimmy.
Here you see there's not a lot in it right now with current. There's pretty reasonable current, that outgoing current from side to side. So there's not a whole lot in it. Today, you'll notice we haven't mentioned the dreaded cone behind Alcatraz Island. There's no such thing.
And you see the Americans, as they came out of that last maneuver, they were touching speeds right around 24, 25 knots, which is roughly 27 or 28 miles an hour, 3 or 4 knots faster than the Kiwis.
2, 1, here we go.
Americans have gotten much better at tacking. You notice that weather hull, the hull that's on the high side of the boat, the right-hand side of the boat has popped out of the water right in the middle of the tack. That's just reducing drag. And clearly, they've learned something from Team New Zealand during the week.
First cross of the match, the Kiwis are clear and away, but it's gotten a little bit closer. Remember, the lead was up to 114 meters. It has now been dropped down to 75 meters.
Not a bad sign for the Americans at this stage. They kept it close on the first set of tacks.
Keep it going. Probably want to see 24, 25.
I'll press, I'll press, I'll press.
Keep going straight. Happy here.
Pretty good.
Gives you an idea of just how physical these AC-72s are. Team New Zealand with the lead, and the Americans are coming fast.
Gary, the Americans did a nice job creating that split, and all of a sudden they get out of phase going upwind automatically. Really good job being aggressive on that run and getting the split at the gate.
Yeah, Ken, one other thing. The wind is actually coming off the shore when they get close to the San Francisco city front, and they could get a good port lift, making them sail a direct course to the windward mark. So the USA has a real chance to gain right here. And there's the wind shift. They take it right there.
Nice, Tommy.
A lot of chatter on board this boat today, you know, kind of a, you get a feel. Well, first of all, there's more chatter when it's windy because it's just a little more hyped on board the boat. But these guys are into it. They have not gotten demoralized. They are still fully engaged.
And the good news for the American fans, the lead is now down to 53 meters as we see another cross in the middle of the course here on leg number 3.
I tell you, these guys are going to be right alongside by the time the Kiwis come out of this tack. This has been a really good comeback by Americans on their Achilles heel leg.
Not so early till you get boundary protection. Good breeze out here. Oh! Keep talking about it that way. Yeah. I think about another 20 seconds from here, Dino.
So Oracle, Team USA, performs another tack, and they split away from the Kiwis. The question is, can the Americans mount a comeback here on leg 3 in San Francisco? Gary, this is something we have not seen for this entire regatta. The Americans making a charge on leg number 3. This is normally when Dean Barker and the Kiwis distance themselves.
Well, I really like the fact they use the opposite gate. They're out of phase. And this left side of the course, where the USA is, the wind's just a little bit more favorable in direction, and the Americans are taking advantage of it. Ben Ainsley, the tactician, is doing a really nice job here.
Have a look at him. He's across, right?
And the anticipated cross does not come about as Dean Barker decides it's a good time to attack. But look at the speed of the Americans, and at this point, the Americans have overtaken the Kiwis.
Well, just by a tad, the Kiwis put themselves in the right position there. It's called a lee bow tack, and you have to be way ahead to actually pull that off. But the fact remains, the Americans, not only aren't they losing on this leg, they're slowly ticking away at the Kiwis, something we absolutely have not seen this entire series on an upwind leg.
Ken, the curious thing to me here is New Zealand knew the Americans are gaining on the left side of the course. Why not switch sides and get over to the south side on the San Francisco waterfront?
Well, here they come. Easier said than done sometimes in these catamarans, but they came back quick this time. I just think the Americans are staying in the middle of the race course, not getting themselves pinned to that left-hand edge like they have in the past. This is a huge moment in this race. This next cross is a big cross.
No, the other thing, Kenny, is that Oracle Team USA is actually sailing through the water faster relative to Emirates Team New Zealand. That's the first time we've seen that on a windward leg.
We could see another hunting move here right now. Starboard tacker could be hunting, but right now Oracle looks like they may. Oh, they popped off their foils there at the last second. Goodness, that was a break they did not have to have.
So it's all about the tacks, and that has been really the Achilles heel of Oracle Team USA, unable to perform it quickly going upwind.
God, they were making gain after gain. Here's a lee bow. It gives them an opportunity. They're getting closer and closer and closer until one small, tiny mistake. It really shows that it's just the tiniest little thing that's going to make or break this race. Doing the right thing here. They tack away. Don't put yourself in a bad spot to get slow. As soon as somebody lee bows you, you tack away.
Well, Ray Davey certainly figured out that the left side of the course was doing well for the USA and now has that advantage. But the great thing here is that when you start catching up like Oracle, your crew gets more excited, and it makes the New Zealand crew a little nervous. Maybe things aren't as good as they thought they were.
One thing is certain, we have not seen this on leg number 3, an extremely close race. The Kiwis right now going through the water very quickly, but only about 20 meters ahead of the Americans as they get set up to hit the next mark. It'll be mark number 3. And remember, this is just a 5-leg race, so 1.5 more legs, and this race will be over.
Oracle will now have the starboard tack advantage. Again, they're tacking better, and it just looks like they're going quicker through the water all the time. Their changes have made a difference here, Todd. Bottom line.
He's going pretty well down there.
Keep in mind, on the run, the boats are so even in speed. If Oracle gets ahead at the mark, they could easily hold them off and take the race.
You heard Ray Davies there, Gary, say he's going pretty well down there. I haven't heard that phrase come out of Ray Davies the entire event.
As they come together, Oracle USA has the right of way here on starboard. New Zealand almost capsized.
Oh,
my gosh.
Got attack, got attack, got attack. Keep going, Hydro. Oh, back, coming back. Coming back.
New Zealand had the right of way there.
Goodness. I think not only that, but New Zealand's going to get a penalty on them here right now. They almost flipped this thing over. My goodness, that's incredible.
So the protest filed by the Americans, the Kiwis just happy to have their boat back on the water.
That is a rattled Dean Barker there right now. There's no other way about it. That was an incredible turn of events. And a penalty on New Zealand. Port starboard against New Zealand in the middle of that near fateful flip over.
Well, it's a boat-on-boat penalty, so New Zealand's already behind. The penalty's already gone away. But Oracle waiting to read.
Well, here it is one more time. Kenny, what went wrong for Dean Barker and his crew?
Their wing didn't pop, so their wing is popped the wrong way. It has not actually gone over to the new side until right there. Their wing did not actually tack. It's just amazing whether that's a hydraulic failure or a human failure. We're not going to know, but watch, they're on port tack right now. The wing is on port tack, and it never actually pops. It stays on port tack through this whole maneuver. Just acts like a wall instead of a wing, and the windage of that wall almost flipped the boat over.
Here it is on board, maybe the most dramatic footage we have so far. Emirates Team New Zealand puts it up on that left side hole, and it just doesn't come back.
Hydro, Hydro, Hydro. Keep going, Hydro.
Todd, I think you hear hydro, hydro, hydro. That means that they don't have the pressure in the system that is needed to actually maneuver that wing. If the pressure isn't there, the wing won't pop. It's one of the features of this Team New Zealand wing. They didn't have the hydraulics necessary to control it.
At gate number 3, it's the Americans with their biggest lead of the race, almost 200 meters. Jimmy Spithill and company now head back downwind and then head for home, hopefully holding off the Kiwis and picking up a win.
Boys, I'll tell you what. The speed and agility we've seen with Oracle this leg, there's a lot of airplane tickets being changed for Monday and Tuesday right now in San Francisco.
And a rattled Kiwis crew, despite leading 6-1, have to make this rounding very cautiously, and now they'll try to track down the Americans, who are off and running as they make their way to the finish line. So the chase is on. Dean Barker in unfamiliar waters as he is looking at the back end of Oracle Team USA, speeding away and seemingly making all kinds of great maneuvers. And Kenny, I don't know what's more impressive, the fact that Dean Barker had himself in that position or the fact that he saved the boat from capsizing.
Well, I think you see, Gary, even that weather mark rounding right there by Team New Zealand was pretty loose. I think you're seeing a rattled team right now. These guys got issues. Now they're completely off their foils in the middle of a jibe. These are just mistakes we have not seen from Emirates Team New Zealand.
Going backwards. Go back.
And the lead continues to grow for the defenders of the America's Cup. Team USA, 700 meters out in front of the Kiwis on leg 4 of 5. They trail 6-1, and Dean Barker right now is dealing with a very rattled crew in a very unfamiliar position. Here it is one more time, the moment where they almost put it over.
Well, it was tough lead bow. They were close anyway, even in a perfect world. But the hydraulics did not work for some reason, and the wing didn't pop. And when the wing doesn't pop, it goes from an airfoil to a wall, to a break, and it just almost flipped the boat over right in front of our very eyes.
So Oracle Team USA out in front, making fantastic maneuvers. They've made a few small adjustments to the boat, and right now, Jimmy Spithill is gaining confidence by every meter sailed.
Gary, what a momentum change. This is absolutely incredible.
You know, Kenny, I'm just wondering, with New Zealand getting nervous, suddenly Oracle's going fast, closer in every tack. That crew was a little bit rattled. I don't think it was a mechanical error. I think it was a human mistake that happened right there.
And the big question now is, if you're Team New Zealand and you lead 6-2, do you play your provisional card and maybe postpone the second race and say, guys, we just need to take a break, because the Americans have already played theirs. They are out of cards, but the Kiwis still hold one.
That's a very good question, Todd. I don't think it's in the Kiwi mentality to ever take a break. They're going to want to go back at him. You see a little smile from Dean Barker there right now. I don't think they're going to ever stop because of sailing. They might stop if they have something broken.
Well, the wind right now, Todd, is about 16 knots. It's actually gone down 3 or 4 knots, so they're not going to be able to use the wind to take a break. If there's a mechanical problem, New Zealand does not want to sail the next race. They'll pull the card. No mechanical problem. I agree with Ken. They'll be out here for race 2.
Okay, 30 seconds to a charge. 37 targets. Half the time. Go, boy. Okay, 15 seconds.
What a huge shift in momentum. Just to bring you up to speed, the Kiwis have 6 wins, 6 points. The Americans just have 1 win, but no points, and that is because they were docked 2 points. So in effect, it's 6 to -1. Now, if the Americans could win 2 races today, Ken, it would make it 6-1 on points, and that would change the dynamic of this thing completely.
Well, I think what we see, the biggest point is you're on Oracle right now. You have hope for the first time in many days. The speed that they showed in their tacking ability upwind, quite simply, is something we just haven't seen before.
Nice and calm down here, boys. Right, Dono. Pressure is.
Aerial view of Oracle Team USA as they continue to speed through the water. New Zealand clocked in with their fastest time, which was 47 knots or 54 miles an hour. And the Americans looking very fast as well, 44.6 knots, which is right around 50 miles an hour as well. All right, Gary, the big question is, are the Kiwis fit to race in the second race today, or there are issues, do you believe, on that boat?
I think there are issues, not only with possibly the wind, but they're having trouble with their port dagger board getting it down. And let's not forget, Grant Dalton wasn't on the boat when they lost the first time. He's not on the boat now. Big mistake.
At mark number 4, it's Oracle Team USA with a huge lead. They trailed after mark 1, they trailed after mark 2, but on the third leg, the Americans turned the tide on the Kiwis, and as New Zealand was almost capsized, the Americans now are putting the hammer down.
Todd, for sailors around the world, or at least in the United States, fans of Oracle, fans of the America's Cup, this is an exceptional turn of events. I think a lot of people just want to see a little more sailing.
And this changes the dynamic so greatly if the Americans can keep this momentum in race number 2 as Emirates Team New Zealand hits the mark and they now make the turn for home, and they are just happy to have the boat sailing right now, because that's about as close as you can get to a capsize as Oracle Team USA approaching 39 knots or 45 miles an hour. Jimmy Spithill and crew will bring it across the line, and Oracle Team USA will win the first race of the day.
Awesome tax.
Todd, you heard Jimmy Spithill right there. Absolutely pinpoint the biggest difference. Awesome tax.
In the wing that pop it, you've got to be forward or something. That's why we don't have the wing that tax.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Great beat, mate.
Yeah, nice.
Sorry about that. Start.
Great.
Just thought he was on my time.
That's all right.
Because I had us 50 back.
Mate, that was all right.
Jimmy Spithill, Ben Ainsley working out their communications. We'll hopefully get a chat with them, but this is something we have not seen as New Zealand suffers their worst defeat in this regatta as they finally come across the line some 52 seconds behind the Americans. The big question now is, Emirates Team New Zealand fit to sail in the second race?